Hey everybody, and thank you very much for joining me. I apologize first of all for the lateness of this. Godfather Grizz had to reschedule. He is at what he prefers to describe as undisclosed location, and so I got the message about that a little later than I think he intended to receive it from me, and so I am late notifying you, and I'm scrambling around for a different topic, and I already I've been working on a story, and it based on analysis I conducted. So I decided to go with that story, and the story is the title that some of you have seen if you've gotten your notifications, or will see when you get your notifications. And you will see right now as I'm tweeting it out, and I'm putting this on Facebook and Instagram and every place else. But I wanted to make sure before, and I'm looking down to calibrate the live stream page right now for YouTube Live Mobile. I wanted to make absolutely certain that my numbers were correct, or at least correct enough for me to be comfortable presenting them, and the comments that I'm going to present with them, or say with them, as possible, because they're explosive, and the implications of what I'm about to tell you are explosive. But they have to be reported because there are several problems that are borne out by math, and I wanted to make absolutely certain also that I was comfortable enough with the dynamics of the numbers so I can explain them to you without looking down at a chart to describe them. And I can definitely do that. That's not a problem at all. And what I mean by that, I mean the specific dollar amounts, or as specific as I can get within ballpark to explain them to you, but then be comfortable in my own head that I'm telling you the right information, giving you the right perspective, okay? So that's very important to me. So I took the extra, I guess it was 27 minutes to really, as they say, well, dot your I's and cross your T's, right? And that's exactly what I have work to do. And now I'm tweeting as well. So I'm going to keep putting this out, and then I'm going to put this out on Twitter and wait for many of you to come in, and then I'll present the information. The numbers are building up here. Once again, Godfather Grizz can't be with us. He's in an undisclosed location. He will be back tomorrow with me at the normal time, 8:30, but on Tuesday rather than today, obviously. And again, my apologies. I just got the word early on that, well, later, not early on, later, that Godfather Grizz would not be able to do the show tonight. Okay, so with that, I have this information to present with you, and again, I'm going to write hello here in the chat area, get things going, announce this is a double shares night, and wait for the people to come in that make this show so great, and then get started. And that way, you won't wind up saying, hey, what did I miss here, right? So those of you who are on, please thumbs up. Raider Flea, let me do a count here. Raider Flea, how you doing? Are you still here? Who else is here? We got Raider Flea, myself. So who else wants to announce that they are with us? I'll assume that, hey, welcome to Zenny62 Live. Godfather Grizz will be tomorrow night, but I have a special show tonight with information that I want to share with you. And waiting for the flock to come on in. I apologize for getting started late, but I got the word late that Godfather Grizz would not be able to come on. So I scrambled for a new show topic. Hey, Raider Kuko, how are you? Hey, Raider Flea is here. Kuko is here. Excellent. Excellent. And I am going to get started by explaining the topic and going forward. Okay, here's the situation, folks. And for those of you with video on demand, this is at the 4:51 mark that I'm actually announcing what's happening here. The heartblood, the life of the Raiders stadium proposal, as you know, is the much talked about $750 million subsidy, right? How many times have you heard that? People parroting this thing out like, well, a parrot, right? Right, 750 million, right, 750 million, okay? And the underlying assumption, probably in your head, or is that, hey, that money is already out there and they just gave it and that's it, right? That's not the way it works at all. This is the way it works. They have a stadium hotel tax that is 88%. Hey, John Marks, how you doing? 88% of 1% on hotel rooms for most of the hotels within a 25-mile radius of the planned stadium, okay? So the idea basically is like this. The bond debt is supposed to be collected with interest at about $44 million a year for 30 years, okay? And the budget for the Stadium Authority and for the bond issue was to collect $50 million a year annually, which would give over a 30-year period a total of $1.5 billion. That's double the $750 million subsidy, right? So that provides a nice cushion so that they have a nice waterfall. But here's what's happening. In actual practice, they're only taking in, they were supposed to take in about $44 million. And when they started actually bringing the money in, right now, the monthly revenue, which started at $5 million for March, has decreased by an average of 10.2% each month, folks. Each month, folks, with respect to what was the proposed budget for each month, to where in June, the difference between what they actually, the stadium revenue, hotel tax revenue actually brought in and what was budgeted was only, get this, $155,000 approximately. Again, the only difference was a surplus of $155,000. That's a far cry from the $1 million surplus they started off with. Yeah, that's right. So the total surplus was almost $2 million, about $1,997,000. All right. But out of that, the Stadium Authority itself last fiscal year took $1 million for itself. Okay. So from the 16 million, that went down to just a little over 15 million, right? So if you have a budget surplus of 1.997 million, you take $1 million away. That's, what is it? That's $997 million surplus going to the next fiscal year, right? So then guess what? The Stadium Authority is supposed to take out another $1 million the next fiscal year, which will put it into deficit approximately by $2,727 in the deficit, okay? Deficit. Now, what does that all mean? It means that they're cutting into the money that they would have to set aside for the bond issue. Now, get this. We don't have revenue monies. We don't have revenue counts for July, August, or September. Clark County was doing a great job, and Steve Sisolak, the county chairperson, was doing a great job of telling you and me, hey, we got this amount for the month and we're over budget. And we're over budget. And Steve would get to tweeting it out. And even as this person, me, was criticizing the whole deal for having a hotel tax revenue rate, what I said was too small. And I made this video blog post about it. And one of the consultants on the project got so pissed off with me that this person sent me a really nasty email. I'm not going to say who it is. Really nasty. But it was one of those emails where, from an entirely other perspective, I thought it was like The Godfather. You know what I mean? One of the Godfather's henchmen sending me this email that basically says, oh, you know what? If you don't knock it off, the Godfather's going to get really upset with you. And we're going to send one of our boys your way. You know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of how it sounded. I'm not saying, I mean, if I read the email to you, you would say, yeah, it sounds like that. That really is how it sounded. And basically what it says is, hey, look, Zenny, you're wrong. But it didn't explain why I was wrong. And when a person does that, it means I'm right. They didn't like that at all. They didn't like that at all. They hated it. Hated it, okay? So I just kept monitoring, and they stopped reporting. Again, I can't find any data from Clark County that's posted on the stadium hotel tax increase revenue for July. Remember they used to release it after July 15th? Nothing. Then nothing for August. Remember they used to, release it like around the 15th? Nothing. September's passed. Now we're in October. We're getting close to October 12th. We're getting close to the next stadium authority meeting. We still have nothing. And there's nothing on the agenda to call for it. Something is going on. And I can tell you what the something is just from the math. They don't have enough money. And they're flirting with this situation, having to turn around and go to the Clark County Board of Commissioners and saying, you know what, we're going to need some more money from you for the Raiders Stadium, because we don't want to have a monthly deficit problem with this bond. Okay? And here's the bigger, that all this started, that I'm telling you, all of this was already in existence before 1 October. That's the name for the Las Vegas incident, 1 October. And so with 1 October threatening, as has been the case with all other tragedies of that type around the world, to reduce tourism flow, guess what? We got a huge problem, folks. I mean, a gigantic problem, all right? So that's the news, and that's what I'm presenting to you. I'm putting it right now. I'm taking the text that I wrote, and I'm copying it, and I'm pasting it, and I'm putting it right now into the description of the post that is this live stream right here. And I'm happy to take any questions you have, or if you want to talk about anything else, like we can definitely do that. Okay, definitely do that. And but there's a problem here. Oh, by the way, this is also a double shares investment night. And so for those of you who are willing to buy me coffee, and now we'll get to your comments. So we've got now, Raider Kuko says, reporting from Santa Rosa where wildfires have taken a toll on the city. Oh my God. Hey, are you okay down there, Raider Kuko? How are you doing? And my condolences to anyone who is directly or indirectly impacted by the tragedy up there. Big Eightful, how you doing? It says, Mr. Zinni, got too off subject. Supergirl season 3 was tonight, not bad. It was excellent. It was excellent. Absolutely. I quite agree. It was quite excellent. And I'm going to watch it again. So the other implication here is that, regarding the news that I shared with you, is this. If they're not able to pay for Clark County the subsidy, then the entire Raiders Stadium project is thrown into jeopardy. That's just the way it is. And the question has to be, the question is going to be brought before the Clark County voter indirectly is this: do we want to pay for this? And the person whose ox is going to be gored, whose political future is going to be affected by this, is none other than Clark County Chairman Steve Sisolak. Clark County Chairman Steve Sisolak. And so that is, all right, so that's it. So I'm going to take comments about this because I really want people to focus and think about this issue tonight and for the next 30 minutes, and then we can talk about other things. But this is and the reason why I'm emphasizing this with people is there's a tendency in society for people to not really want to drill down and think about these policy problems and then call for them to be solved. I mean, I hear this on a regular basis. What can I do? I'm powerless. No one is powerless to make noise. Even, for example, if you take this video blog post right now as it's going and put it out on Facebook and say, hey, look, hashtag live stream. Get other people to pay attention to what's happening. Particularly, or when you tweet this out, Barry Lee, if he's here, tweet it out with hashtag Vegas, which is what I'm going to do, okay? So that, but this is really important because once again, it's really possible to alter the fortunes of Oakland just by putting out the right information at the right time. And this is that right information at the right time. What this is, let me put this into an entirely deeper perspective. 20 plus years ago, in 1995, when the Raiders came back to Oakland, we were given a great song and dance that I bought hook, line, and sinker, among others, about how the deal was going to pay for itself. About how $200 million worth of PSLs were going to be sold, that the Raiders stadium was going to be paid for by quote, private funds, unquote. And of course, the city and the county ended up dipping into their fund to pay for it. Well, guess what, folks? What we're looking at is Raiders Deal 2. That's right. Raiders Deal 2 in Las Vegas. Raiders Deal 2, okay? So, and as John Marks said, he was one of those who also thought, you know, hey, the deal was going to pay off. And I remember Oakland Assistant City Manager Ezra Rapport had all of us thinking, yeah, the Raiders deal is going to work for Oakland. Well, this Las Vegas deal has similar problems, folks. It really does. And no, I would argue it's worse. And the reason why I argue it's worse is that it's bigger. So you have bigger money. It's not 200 million, it's 750 million. And you're trying to build an entire new stadium. And then on top of that, the Raiders have structural costs regarding parking and, you know, infrastructure, both off-site transportation infrastructure, and then also talking about the highways, but also streets and roads that they have to pay for according to Clark County regulations that drive the cost of the project up. So, and again, I hate to say it, but there is the tourist flow issue. As John Marks says, do you remember a guy named Frank Rizzo? Frank Rizzo, why do I remember that name? I remember Frank Russo, but who is Frank Rizzo, John Marks? At any rate, the problem, what the Stadium Authority has to do is, if they haven't had it done already, because I don't believe they're subject to the Brown Act as we are in California, is have to sit down behind closed doors, closed session meeting about the future of the project and how they're going to fix it. And the best other way for them to fix it is to just downsize the whole thing. And in downsizing the whole thing, what that means is that they have to jettison the Raiders and fashion it for UNLV, which was already in, and I repeat, already in the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Act, such that the project would turn over to UNLV already. So, oh, I see. Frank Rizzo is the one who was opposed to the 1995 Oakland Raiders deal. Yeah, that's right. I remember. I think it's Frank Russo, actually, not Rizzo. Frank Russo. But, yeah, I know Frank. And still, I haven't talked to Frank in a while, but I know Frank well. I sure do remember him. I remember Frank Russo. I remember Joe Debro, who Stanley Washington is the modern Joe Debro, both called for provisions for additional minority hiring on the project, as you know, another. But anyway, I remember those. But again, where we sit is a problem. And again, Clark County has put on their website where you can email and then call to get the revenue information. I did that. And this is the response that I got, okay? I want you to listen to what I'm about to tell you, okay? This is the response that I got. I'm going to share some information with you tonight. This is going to be fun. In fact, you know, I said I wasn't going to share that email that I got, right? But I've changed my mind. I'm actually going to do that. I'm not going to say who I got it from, but I'm going to share the email, okay? And, all right? Okay. And so anyway, I hope this reaches you well, and that you are well. I wanted to mention to you that you that a number of assumptions that you used in your 415 article regarding stadium funding and financing were seriously flawed. I'll mention 3 that top of the list. Your assumed monthly room tax receipts were materially understated. Your coverage calculation was done incorrectly, and the bond repayment schedule was lacking some important considerations that would be necessary to computing a debt service amount that was close to what is really expected. Taken together, these seriously undermine the analysis and the conclusion. And the reason I'm bringing this to you is that attention is that we have communicated over the past several months. I have come to consider our friendship a relationship a friendly one, and it is. Further, while I fully recognize this is an emotionally charged issue for many people, it is still important for them to have the correct numbers in front of them as they consider the merit of the issue. And just a heads up, my friend. And so my, response back, that was this. It was hello, not meaning to cause concern, happy to make any corrections you suggest. The work idea was based on my main post here, and I put a link to it. And then I said the main problem is the same as we faced in 1995 when the Raiders returned to Oakland from LA, the assumption of rightness and the fear of the common person to ask questions. What I'm trying to do in this case, of course I'm not the common person, is basically make sure this deal is structured correctly. If you take a less defensive view, you have to agree that such an input can only make it better, not worse. The overall problem is the $50 million mark is under the debt coverage ratio number, and it's at 2, not 1.5, to escape the fear of touching the Clark County General Fund. Why not have $86 million and not $50 million? The debt service for the bond at $43 million would be easily accessible. The remainder would be a true waterfall, okay? My overall objective is nothing less than to cause Las Vegas to do actual economic planning. It's great at taking action, but bad at planning to take action. Thus, we get the Fontainebleau. You know that 70-story hotel that's still empty to this day and still standing? The practice of a black box approach in planning for large-scale projects has gotten us too many failures, most notably the Challenger. Remember the space shuttle? Please join me in reversing this state of affairs. And of course, I received no, I did get one back. It says basically, all right, okay. And this makes me feel better because I just saw this, right? Again, this was just an FYI. I am certainly not questioning your motives, as I could not agree more with a need for complete transparency. That's great. Frankly, the more questions, the better. I sent you the note out of friendship, not out of obligation. Okay, now I feel a lot better. The claim here is that the average annual debt service is projected to be well under the $43 million you have used. But see, the $43 million that I used didn't come from me, it came from them. And that's where we got muddled. Even if it's at $37 million, which would be 1.25, a debt coverage ratio, basically 1.5 to 1, okay? In terms of, the question is, how would you be able to engineer that at, I couldn't park that into, that's a humongously low interest rate. I couldn't find any projection that allowed that. Under any. But see, here's the thing. He didn't tell me what the number was. He just said the average annual debt service is projected to be well under the $43 million mark you used. What is it? Okay. What is it? All right. And again, this was way back April 18th. All right. I still haven't gotten an answer to that question. And I said, hi, I can plug that in by have a gander at this attached spreadsheet I found and used by the state of Massachusetts, and I attached here. I'm guessing that the bonds are in serial terms well beyond the final collection date for the lease, say 40 years. As to the overall objectives, thanks. I'm really concerned about the direction this society is taking. I want to have people think. So remember, I'm telling this person, it's not just you all, okay? I want to have people think, especially about their cities and their future. I don't think this project failing via government does anyone any good, even in Oakland. I can't control the Raiders. I tried. Best from a mad urban economic planner, Zinni Abraham. That's me. Okay. So that's how I left. That's how I left that part of it. And hey, that's how I left that part of it. So I cannot communicate who that is. I can say that person has played a major role in the Las Vegas Stadium project, and I consider her a friend. bottom line is that what wasn't shared with me is what this person's debt service was. And the one that I came up with, that's I've seen in every document, is between $43 million and $46 million. You know, when you attach the interest rate. So what is it? Were they able to squeeze out something less? But even then, it's still, and I repeat, still points to the greater problem of not having enough monthly stadium revenue from this tax applied. And see, the reason why he got so testy, my friend, is because I wrote an article back on April 15th calling for a higher, I said that, hey, their tax rate was too low. It should have been 1.4%. That's what I was getting at. And I was saying, hey, look, why not have more of a waterfall? Why not 86 million? So that's where my friend comes in, gets testy, as you heard me recite, and we went from there. It's too low. And the problem had emerged before 1 October last week. And now 1 October makes it more acute than ever. And again, the Clark County had not issued any data, which gets to my, my other email from the Clark County revenue people. Okay, I mean, this is what I've been dealing with. I mean, hey, how you doing? This is what I've dealt with. All right, where is this? There is okay. That is not, so many emails. It's not a matter of so many emails to so little time, but hold on a second. All right. That would come to, trying to get this information. Here we go. Nope, that's not it. I even wrote Elliot McCabe. Didn't get that from him. Bear with me, folks. I am trying to get the information from you. And where is it? Let me try this another way. Okay. Clark County. This is the curse of having too many emails around. Okay, here we go. I found it. All right. And what I got back from this, this is from Clark County, Nevada. This is, hello, Zenny. Thank you for contacting our office with your request for information about the stadium tax revenue. Unfortunately, the audit division is not able to provide you with the information you were requesting. I have forwarded your request for information to our Revenue and Compliance Unit for follow-up. Our Revenue and Compliance Unit can be reached at 702-455-3557. Since the tax is relatively new to us, I am honestly not sure that our Revenue and Compliance Unit knows yet who is responsible for making information regarding a stadium tax available to the public. However, they will look into this request and determine where to refer you so that you may obtain the information you requested if in fact they cannot distribute the information themselves. My apologies that I cannot further personally assist you, but you're welcome to contact me if you have any further questions or concerns. Thank you. And that was from the auditor, which I really appreciate. It's very nice. And and then I asked for a response, and so because I had written this question, I said, greetings, I'm working on a reporting project for an assignment, and I can't seem to find Clark County Stadium Hotel tax revenue for the month of August and September. It's now October 4th. I should have added in July. It's now October 4th, okay? So then, and they sent some attachments, but they weren't the ones that, and I said, and if I did not say so before, thank you, and hashtag Vegas Strong. And then I get another response back 5 days ago. It says, hello again, Zenny. Thank you for your nice sentiments. Sorry to disappoint, but to answer your earlier question, the links are simply, links to the county's Wayne page, all right? And so you're probably already seen some of my pages, all right? Just between us, if I had to guess, I'd say you're probably going to need to obtain the tax totals from the Stadium Authority. All parties concerned will almost certainly want to make sure that any tax figures released to the public are the final official totals. In case you don't have it, here's a link to their webpage, which, you know, the Stadium Authority's webpage, right? The Stadium Authority website indicates there is a scheduled public meeting at the Clark County Government Center on October 12th at 1 o'clock p.m. I don't know, but maybe they'll discuss latest revenue totals at the meeting. So, if you're local, that might be something you'd be interested in attending. Looks like they do publish some revenue information in their minutes, but the latest I could find went only through July 2017, as you indicated. At any rate, best of luck to you in obtaining the information. And so, it says, now may I ask you a favor. If you are willing to track down revenue figures from other source, would you be willing to circle back and let me know, please? I'd like to know where to send future inquiries, which is really great because they have the person that I contacted as, you know, the point of contact on the website. So this person's probably thinking, my God, what do I do, right? But that's the contact. And again, Steve Sisolak and the county, when they wanted to get this information out, hey, they gave it to Las Vegas Sun and all those folks in the Review Journal, and it was all hunky-dory. Remember all that stuff? It was like, woo, we're ahead of the game. Now, nothing. You don't get bit.ly, do diddly, nothing, boom, nothing at all. Which means there's a problem, okay? I mean, as Mr. Spock once said, well, yeah, even on this side of the galaxy, 2 + 2 = 4, which happens to be why I'm wearing my Star Trek shirt, given to me by Rod Roddenberry and the great people at Roddenberry Enterprises, but I digress. Problem, okay? So anyway, and as John Marks reminds us on our live stream, we still have a plan in Oakland. Big April says, when will Mark Davis and Oakland finally sit down and hash this deal out? Next year, 2 years from now, because Vegas is sinking slowly. Rick Gray says, Mr. Spock, thank you. Yes, may you live long and prosper in your world. Now, reading your comments, and welcome to Zenny62 on YouTube, by the way. XL Generation says, Oakland even had a plan for stadium, yet we got shafted. Yes. And he does not mean any pun with respect to our Oakland Mayor Libby Schaff at all. John Mark says, Las Vegas is better off with either Chargers, the Jaguars, or an expansion club. Rick Gray says, hello, Zenny. Looks like ATL tonight. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll just go in. I think you mean, yes, that's where I'm at. The 411 says, Forever Oakland, Stuck in Oakland, Commitment to Oakland, West with Saul. JP from the P. How you doing, JP from the P? Silver and Black, Oakland, Forever Oakland. Big April says, as the way the season's going, I don't know if Las Vegas is going to want them. Yeah, and Crawford371 says, we stand with Oakland. And John Marks reminds us, Forever Oakland, which, and Excel Generations asks, how do we contact Oakland officials and ask them to work out a deal with Mark Davis? I will do that again. Oh, and Rick Gray says, do that again. You mean this? Live long and prosper in your world. That one? That one? There you go. Now, the number you want to call is this, 510-238-3141. That's the Oakland Mayor's office, okay? Oakland Mayor's office is there. And then for the Oakland City Council, main number is 510-238-3266. And from there, you can ask for who you want to talk to, be it, you know, Oakland City Council member Dan Kalb, District 1, Oakland City Council member for District 2, Abel Guillen, Oakland City Council member for District 3, Lynette Gibson McElhaney, Oakland City Council member for District 4, Ann Campbell Washington, Oakland City Council member for District 5 is Noel Gallo, Oakland City Council member for District 6 is Desley Brooks, Oakland City Council member for District 7, where the Coliseum is located, Larry Reed. So there's your numbers right there that I posted for you. Joseph Jones, how you doing? He says, hey, Zinni, prayers to those in North Bay with all the fires. Yes, definitely. And homes and lives lost. Oh, my, horrible. Eric Mason, how you doing? And Kevin Clager Wilson says, in Oakland. And in Oakland, I don't know what that means. Eric Mason says, what did you miss? Eric, I'll tell you what you missed, okay? And for those of you who just joined me, I'll give a recap. And is Barry Lee here right now? Barry, are you here now? Barry Lee going once? Barry Lee, we're here. Barry Lee. I'm not saying barely. I'm saying Barry Lee. Where's Barry Lee when you need him? All right. What you missed, Eric, is this. First of all, and I'll just cut to the chase. The revenue from the stadium tax is such that I believe that they're close to, if not already at, deficit. That is the story, okay? And because of the situation, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority is going to have to consider going to Clark County and asking for money to make up a cushion. And they're going to have to ask if Clark County is willing to do that. Not just because, and they also have not released stadium information for the month of July, August, or September. So there's a big problem there, okay? There is a huge and enormous problem. I was told that when I wrote an article about this problem originally on April 15th, where I said the stadium tax, hotel tax should have been 1.4% rather than 88 100ths of 1%. My friend told me that my debt service was actually less than 43 million, but he did not give me the number. And I have not been able to find any document which points to the actual bond issue debt service annually being less than 43 million. Maybe 42 million, but even then there's still a problem. I can't find that. So, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I can't find it. That's where that is, okay? So, Rick Gray asks, have we heard any public comment from Mark Davis or Mark Badain on financing issues in Las Vegas? No. And he says, since you are media, can't you ask for public comment? I can ask for public comment, but if you mean, can I file a Freedom of Information Act? Well, you know, I could try, but it's harder to get freedom. It's harder to get that from, I could do it with respect to Clark County, which would be indirect. So I could do that, right? I could definitely do that because it's a public entity, and we're talking about something that directly falls on the public, the bond issue, okay? Now, so, hey, Joseph Binsman, how are you? And then Rick Gray says, no, I mean from the Raiders. No, I have not. And they have not. And when I pose these technical questions to them, what I always get back is, I'm not going to deal with it right now. I'm not going to deal with that right now. And that's fine. All I want on record is that I asked the question. That's all. But again, the problem is this stadium plan is in trouble. It is officially in trouble. It was in trouble before 1 October, and now it has to be regarded as officially in trouble. So, hey, thank you for the investment, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you very much. Thank you. Double shares tonight, by the way. Double shares tonight. And so, Rick Gray says, have we heard any? I got that one. Joseph Jones says, don't understand why no one is willing to admit the deal is over. Just sad to keep pushing this fiasco. I couldn't have said it better. Or just drop it in the end. I could not have said it better. And Patrick and Blackman says, if Mark Davis wants to retain ownership, he better work out a deal in Oakland. Ding! Hey, Barry Lee, how are you? Barry Lee Strong. Barry Strong, how you doing? And the birthday boy, now 9 years old, 1 year away from 50. Hey, 50 is the new 30. I remind you of that. Now, John Mark says, Las Vegas is financially bad news to all. And look, for those of you with us from Vegas, first of all, I say this, hashtag Vegas Strong. I do not intend to cast negatives on Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas. I have said from the onset, and you all remember who followed this, okay? You all remember who followed this. I have said this is never an issue of dislike about Las Vegas. This is an issue of trying to get, and thank you for your investment, Octavio. Hey, how you doing, Octavio? This is an issue of trying to get it right. As James McClendon asks, he says, "Hello, Zinster. How are you? This Raider fiasco is going south of the border. It's crumbling like the Lobo Prieto earthquake of '89, which I was in." And Barry Lee reminds us he's turned 48. And Raider Kuko says, "Who is the political opposition to this deal in Las Vegas? You should invite them to the show. They need to highlight the bond fund shortage." And Rick Gray says, "Sooner or later, as the debt keeps rising over 1.2 billion, 1.9 billion, someone is going to have to bring this up. What are they going to wait to get to 4 billion and then blame the tragedy?" You know, let me get to Ray Kuko's statement first of all, his point about who the political opposition to all of this is. It never went to a vote among the electorate. When it was done, it was a year ago. In fact, do you realize we're coming up almost to a year ago when the deal was approved? That's October 16th, right? And so then you had a majority Republican Nevada legislature and a very wealthy Sheldon Adelson looking to do a deal. He spent millions on lobbying, giant campaign, hired what one local media guy described as an army of lobbyists, and was able to hammer out a deal which included, among other things, this, all right? And it hammered out this, okay? A $100 million verbal commitment to hire people of color, LGBT, on the project. That was made by Las Vegas Sands Representative, Vice President of Government Affairs, Andy Aboud. He hammered that out with a number of people in the room, including Stanley Washington, who's been on this show. Okay? Then, at that point, the deal went through. Then the election came up, and remember what happened. That's how we got President Trump, among other things. But Nevada went from red to blue in its legislature. So you have a whole new legislature, and one that, if you took the blue legislature and combined them with the polls that were done back in March and February on the deal, both of which turned thumbs down on, public subsidy, it adds up to an electorate that's sitting back there and saying, hey, how do we get into the $750 million jazz, right? And that's where we are now. One of the people in opposition has been, until now, Clark County Commissioner Chris Giuliani, a wonderful person. And Giuliani has been hedging her bets on running for governor. And I say hedging her bets because she hasn't come out ever since she's thought about and then announced her consideration for running governor. She hasn't come out and been as vociferously opposed to the Raiders plan as before. But you can bet the minute she finds a problem with the deal, she's going to ratchet back to her original position of, hey, we shouldn't have spent this kind of money. Now, if you're talking about somebody I should get on the show again, I had interviewed her in a video on demand live stream. I'll definitely reach out and contact her. I have tried to talk to Steve Sisolak a number of times. We talked originally, and then I think once the vote happened and they got what they wanted, and he didn't return my phone calls. Plus, it was revealed that, hey, this guy is. I'm not an enemy of the state. Okay, I'm just, as I said, trying to get to the bottom, making sure we have a deal such that I can say, okay, Oakland lost fair and square. We didn't do our homework. These guys did, and they did it better. That's not what's happening. Okay, and and I have said that this deal has been bad for how long? And I said that if the NFL had approved the deal, I was simply going to laugh right there in the room like this. And I did. Okay? I did. So I've been consistent. Now, to your points. So we got... But here's the thing. I don't hate Vegas. Anybody who does is wrong, talking out of this, everything. There's wrong. All right? Joseph Jones says, no one hates Vegas. This whole deal with a lack of experience will cost the taxpayers billions, and the Raiders will go broke in the process. They could take Clark County with them. Octavio says, and not only that, think about this, folks. 1 October has heaped an enormous amount of overtime costs on the Las Vegas law enforcement organizations that, hey, look, could never have been anticipated. Fortunately, to some degree, I believe are helped. No, excuse me, they definitely are helped by the part of the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Act that allows for increased law enforcement spending. All right, but the bottom line is, this is a project that I told John Clayton this could happen. You all saw the video, I think. If you didn't, I'm happy to post a link to it, where I told John Clayton that the Raiders deal was one Paris attack away from failure. And now here we are. And I say that without glee. But you don't design such a project so irresponsibly. And that's what was done. With this hubris like, we'll never deal with this, that'll never happen. You don't do that. It's not fair to the taxpayer. It's not fair to anyone. It's not even fair to Raider fans or anybody. It's not even fair to the NFL, which got itself in this mess anyway. Okay? So, no. So, anyway. Octavio Harris says, loyal to the cause. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. You know that comes from, you ever see American Beauty? Thank you very much, sir. That was Kevin Spacey playing, what's his name? Frank Burnham? Yeah, Lester Burnham. Thank you very much for yeah. Anyway, Octavio Arias, loyal to the cause. Thank you. Excel Generation says, now Sheldon has crazy Nazis in his political base freaking him out. Yeah. Isn't that sad? Octavio says, more worried about the Raiders' bad play. Oh, bad play or bad coaching? I think the Raiders have great players. It's just fundamentals and also lack of imagination. Excel Generations, Nevada's been hurting since the crash. They have the luxury to gamble on a sports team. Joseph Jones says, yeah, Octavio, me too also. Raider Nation fans attacking Donald Penn, throwing bottles at his car and challenging him to a fight. You know, that was wrong, and I'm glad you brought that up. That was completely wrong. And I did invite the young man on to have, a conversation. He has not taken me up on it. JP from the P, maybe he was advised by his attorney not to do so. Don't know. JP from the P says, and the NFL says yes, just to get Mark off their back about moving. Laugh out loud. Coog Snipe is here. How you doing, my man? It says, hashtag Forever Oakland, hashtag 66 Mob. How you doing, my man? Orlando Jimenez says, yes, open up the playbook. Yeah, I mean, just something, just show us that you guys, your wheels are turning up there, okay? That's what bothers me, both on offense and defense. Defense is plain vanilla. It's a variation of the USC defense, and maybe you've got some plays where you have the elephant and you don't have the elephant up, and you've got, but you don't have you don't have any formations that feature six wild, where you don't quite know who the D-line person is, right? I mean, or the wide tackle 6 that I favor. I go on and on and on. Where's the defensive variation? It's not there. Richard Hike says they had Downey figured out by week 3. Yeah, because his plays are simple. It's like he actually went in with a smaller playbook. Joseph Bensman says, you think that a Paris-type attack would scare away investors any? You mean like what happened in that concert last week? Very sad. Yeah, I did, and I had said that, Joseph, and hey, Eric Guerrera, and Octavio says, Sean Smith getting burned all the time. Don't get me started. Or maybe you should. Excel Generation says, RD has always been a weak link, especially in the secondary, even lacking now, I guess. Joseph Jones says, sad to say it, but the way they're playing reminds me of 3 years ago. Eric Guerrera says, Musgrave. Raider Fleece says, hey, Zinni. Jumping on another topic, how about them Cowboys? Jerry Jones saying that if his players still taking it, that was so horrible. And then look, Jamili Hill was only suspended for 2 weeks. I thought it was like forever. That's good. Oaktown Raider, how you doing? He says, hey, Zinni, the sound is way better from the last time I was here. Hey, that's great. You know why? I'm smart enough to plug in and use my microphone on a consistent basis. And until I get a new iPhone, there's something wrong with the mic on the one that I'm currently using, such that, the internal mic. But I'm glad that the problem with that internal mic caused me to use this external one, because I agree with you, the sound is a lot better and makes for a much improved exchange with all of you. So yeah, thank you for saying that and everything else, and Octavio as well. Oh, Joseph Bensman says, hey Zinni, hey from Texas, how you doing? Is that Evroprim? How are you? And Rick Ray says, real question. Can Vegas allow gambling inside the Stadium 24/7 to pay off the $2 billion deficit? They can make it back then, right? Could you gamble while watching live football? I don't know that you can. However, and can it be used as a waterfall? I don't see why not. I couldn't if it was allowed to do. Now, I'll get a definitive answer for you on that, because I don't want to go out and say, oh yeah, they can do it. But the assumption is, can they make that back? All right. Does the NFL want that? Right now, T-Mobile Arena does not allow that. You cannot gamble in T-Mobile Arena. So if you have a firewall at T-Mobile Arena, I don't see why in the next breath it's going to happen in Raider Stadium, but I'll investigate that. I mean, if they get that far. I am still of the belief that this deal is going to fall apart if they are allowed to use gambling. Let me say something else here. Gambling is probably the only thing that's going to keep the NFL's revenue stream coming in the future. Why? Because media is shrinking. In other words, the idea, it's not, people have not stopped watching television, all right? But they've reduced it, and what's making up for that in terms of where we watch isn't such that those organizations are ready to pay the hefty fee. ESPN, Fox, they overpaid for the NFL to the point where, I'm interested to see if the NFL can actually command an even bigger rights fee next time around. If they don't, that's the first sign of a problem in the league. If the NFL can't clear $30 billion, if they flatline at $21 billion next time around, that's a problem. Okay? That's a problem. Because if they flatline there, that impacts what? The value of all of the teams. And then what's going on is, look at the value, the franchise value for basketball. It's the basketball team franchise value is starting in a number of cases to equal or be better than NFL teams. Right now, the Houston Rockets, which were just purchased by Tillman Fertitta, are worth more than the Oakland Raiders. Worth $3 billion. So the NBA is on the cusp of being freaking huge, man. But will it reach NFL numbers? I think within the next 10 years, it's going to get even closer. Now, Joseph Bensman says, hey, Zinni, I had a Cal question for you. Do you remember what Aaron Rodgers was, when Aaron Rodgers was at Cal? Do you remember, did you go to the games when he was there? Yes and yes. And Aaron Rodgers was there 2007. Excuse me, not 2007. Aaron Rodgers was there up until 2005. And it was 2000. I was at the game, the draft where Aaron Rodgers was picked. And I remember Alex Smith was picked number 1, and I've got that on my Sports Business Simulations site, my account. And I interviewed Aaron Rodgers' family as we all sat waiting for him to be eventually drafted by the Packers. And I remember his look on his face when he came out. He wanted to smash something. So I really remember that. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I went to Cal. My friend, my buddy Mike Silver, 2 years later, we were hanging out. We this is like around Christmas time. Went to a party for the Catwoman swim team. Mike had just come out with a book called Golden Girl about Natalie Coughlin. So he was hanging around. He had embedded himself with the Catwoman swim team. And Adam Duritz of the Counting Crows, Silver, a bunch of us went to this Catwoman's party, swimming party. Boy, that was a ton of fun. That's about all I'll say. That was a blast. Oh, that was a blast. Ooh, boy. Okay. Now, Oakland Raider. Oh, by the way, sorry, I'm missing your comments here. And Octavio says, Excel Generations. Joseph Jones says, what's going on with Alden Smith? Haven't heard anything yet. And Excel Generations asks, has Sheldon Adelson said anything about Vegas deal Raiders since he got dropped? No. And John Marks, I think a number of people followed up and says no. Joseph Jones says no, he's correct. And Octavio Harris says you can gamble as long as they're not gambling on the game that's on. But on the premises, you can't. At T-Mobile, you can't do that, as I understand it. John Marks says, I'm talking about in Las Vegas. John Marks says, I have faith this deal will fall apart. I believe it. I have faith in God. The deal, I believe, is going to fall apart. Octavio Arias says, stadiums are not full. That's going to hurt the show, and they will lose TV rights. Here's the thing. Octavio, time out there. Filling a stadium has nothing to do with TV rights. Nothing, okay? TV rights are driven by ratings, but you can have a virtually empty stadium, and as long as the ratings are great, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The teams are going to get their chunk, their $171 million each. Okay, that's their base. And as long as they've got that for the year, ding, they're just fine. Get this, they get that. It's not like they renegotiate every year. They've got that $21 billion package, and that money gets spread out over a period of years, right? So as long as they have that, they're golden. They really don't care per se about filling the stadium, except when it comes to using that money, to pay for revenue that has to do with such things as expanding and upgrading your training camp facilities and other paying the utility bill on your complex, your headquarters complex, and that sort of thing. That's when it comes into play. But if you can balance out your player payments with respect to what you're getting from the league in terms of that chunk, you can even carve off some of that for administrative costs and still come out, looking pretty good. Okay, so you have to balance it out just so. So now, Joseph Jones says no faith required. John Marks is already happening. Laugh out loud. Rick Gray says, how will 15 football dates and some other events per year make back the $4 billion the project is going to right now? Really, can just events pay this back while the team needs to profit yearly? No. And it wasn't like that many dates. It's more like the idea was, can this project command 46 big events? 46 minimum annually. And a number of people are skeptical of that number. I mean, not just people like me. Folks like Bill Hornbuckle, who's the MGM president over there, is very skeptical. So, that's some doing. 46 big event dates. And I don't mean 46 events like a wedding. I mean like a concert that might be put on, like, let's say it's a tribute to Tom Petty, right? Where you have, 15 different artists singing a medley of Tom Petty songs. Something like that, right? So, which would be pretty doggone cool. But imagine having something like that kind of event, 46 times a year. That kind of event, you could pull in 20,000 people, maybe 30,000 in the stadium, okay? Something like that. I mean, you got to do some... It takes some doing to pull that off. Now, Excel Generation says, if Mark backs out and goes with Oakland, does he have any legal liabilities to pay or whatever to Las Vegas? No. In fact, think of it this way. Not only does he not have any legal liabilities to pay Las Vegas right now, because no, they haven't signed a non-relocation agreement, and they still haven't signed it. Keep that in mind, okay? But they also get, remember this whole design, the stadium design, where did it come from? Where did it come from? Where did it come from? It came from Carson, right? They can now take that more advanced design and bring it to Oakland. Nothing stopping them, right? They've already got the work done. Just bring it to Oakland. Think about it. So you've got Oaktown Raiders says, Zinni, going back to the whole Penn ordeal, Donald Penn, talking about Donald Penn, the Oakland offensive tackle that went AWOL. You really should get the young man to come on your vlog. There's two sides to every story. Penn needs to grow some thick skin. He really looked bad Sunday. Yeah, you're right. I should. And I'm going to reach out to him again. I left my phone number with him. I haven't heard back from him. I will try again. And I'd love to have him on and talk. I think I met him before. But seems like a cool guy, you know. So Big Eightful says, if football don't watch out, the NBA will be the #1 sport in America. Yeah, because the NBA has got, you know what the NBA has got? It's international in its scope, and because it's naturally international in its scope, it has fans from these different countries which know, you know, players like the gentleman that was drafted by the Knicks 2 years ago, Yitzhak Porzingis, right? And they go and they find those players. So, and then they can find out more about those players and what those players are doing in their language. That's automatic. That's huge. That's huge. And then basketball is still that game that anybody can play. It's pickup. Women can play it, and anybody else. By the way, speaking of which, Wednesday night, Wednesday, my special guests. I have 2 special guests, and I am really excited to tell you. And I'm just gonna say this to you right now. First of all, the headliner, Dr. Jen Welter, the NFL's first female football coach, is my guest Wednesday, preliminarily 8 p.m. Pacific, right here, Zinni 62. Woo! Dr. Jen! All right, Dr. Jen. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have Dr. Jen on. Then, same day, earlier in the day, at 4 o'clock Eastern, okay, 4 o'clock, WWE icon has a movie coming out, Ballerina I Am Not, and I'm going to interview her right here, okay? She is Francesca Zappitelli, and I've just watched her movie called Ballerina I Am Not. It's about women in wrestling. So I know you all are going to want to see me talk with her on Skype. We're going to talk women's wrestling and its history and what she's doing and about her movie called Ballerina I Am Not. So Wednesday is a red letter day in women's sports on Zinni 62 on YouTube. Yes. All right. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Cam Newton and everything else. So, chime in. This is going to be, definitely a stone gas. Okay. So, Joseph Jones going back says, no, not as long as he doesn't sign a non-relocation agreement. No legal recurrence toward the Raiders. James McClendon says, this conditional deal to Vegas should have never been fast-tracked and granted anyway. Yes, without Shell Nadelson being in place to help with the financing, which he was until he was chased away. And so Octavio says, but the ratings will drop because empty stadiums cause a bad show on the field and TV. Sometimes. But, you've seen a lot of games where the ratings weren't all that good. Excuse me. The attendance wasn't all that good, but the ratings were still tops and that's what you have to compare it to among other telecasts. Even though television viewership has went down overall, the NFL is still the ruler in terms of commanding eyeballs. People forget that. Those who want to just sound the death knell of the NFL either don't realize that fact or conveniently forget it. So John Mark says, long live Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And Excel Generation says, cheaper to build in Oakland plus A's moving to downtown. Laney College. Dildon the Deglo says, did any of the restructured contracts for Penn, Seabass, or Carr happen planning for Las Vegas? No. If you're saying that was there restructuring because of them to pay for Las Vegas, you know what? I haven't ran the Raiders team numbers to determine if that was needed. But given Mark Davis' relationship with Sheldon Adelson, I believe he had Sheldon help pay for some of that pre-development cost, like for architects and land and so on. All right, but it's a good question. I'm gonna admit I don't know the answer to that, rather than saying no. And so Rick Gray says, how much is the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for Atlanta costing? That's $1.4 billion. How much of that is paid from endorsement deals? $1 billion. What is the loan for Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Same as for Raiders per plan, $850 million. How does that get paid back? By sponsorship. Was there money left on at the Georgia Dome? And the answer is yes. Hey, good night, Barry Lee. You're around for a short time. Jason McClendon had something. Sean Grogan says, good evening, everyone. Mr. Grogan, how are you? Rick Gray says, Jack Del Rio looks so mad about the way the team performed yesterday. Wonder how the film review went today. Did anyone see his Monday press conference on NBC Sports? I did not, but I can find it. Big April says, on a sad note, the Hawk, Connie Hawkins, passed away at 75. Oh, no. That's bad news. Joseph Jones says, good night all earlier day, everyone. Yep. Octavio says, I saw the Mercedes-Benz Atlanta Stadium 75% filled. That place, I can't wait to attend the game there. Whew. Joseph Binsman says, yeah, but the real problem, I don't see the NFL as a cure for the long term is CTE. Parents are beginning to not let their kids play football, and that's an unavoidable problem. And Joseph, I agree with you. However, I believe this new helmet technology will save the day in terms of putting this membrane and movable area around, which should have been done a long time ago. James McClendon says, Zinster, remember when they took the NFL owners to vote relocation, Adelson was no longer part of the deal? Yes, I do. Octavio says, Donald Penn's contract does not extend to Las Vegas. No, it does not. And, hey, Joshua A.G., how are you doing? How are you? So I believe I've got everybody's comments there. Now, as far as the situation with... Oh, Dildon says, how do you see protests affecting the future of the Raiders and all the NFL? You want to know what the NFL protests prove? They prove the NFL matters, because the ratings from the NFL have been driven up because of the protests, because people want, they go and they pay attention, they watch television, they want to see, who's going to take a knee, who's not, who's doing what. When Vice President Mike Pence sends out his tweet, it's actually press for the NFL. It goes with the old saying, there's no such thing as bad press, only press, right? So that's what this proves. It simply demonstrates how important the NFL is in the direction of American culture. That's what it proves. Will it result in the NFL's ruin? Heck no. Because for everybody, so for someone that says they're not going to watch the league, there's somebody that does. And then on Facebook, a friend of mine, Davey D, was announcing his opposition to the league and how he's not watching. But I said to him on, because he's connected, he tagged me on it. I said, hey, look, the NFL was good to me, and the city of Oakland was not. And, I've told a long story here about how the city of Oakland treated me terribly on the Super Bowl and so on. And the NFL basically saved me. And that's my story. And so I'm not going to turn my back on the league because somebody else disagrees with this issue of the national anthem, which to me is short term. What I mean by that is, if a person doesn't want to stand for it, they don't have to. Player doesn't want to stand for it, they can sit in the locker room, which I think is a great thing. And it will, like all the other disagreements and all the other publicly seen culture wars, this too will pass sooner rather than later. The bigger problem of police brutality against black men still prevails, and that is what the league needs to pay attention to. And so this protest, what I think is going to happen, is going to open the door for the NFL to really begin to be more activist in that way, if only because many of its players are going to force the NFL, and that's already happening, to be more activist in that way. So Jason McClendon says, Zinster, when do you think the league will pull the plug on this Vegas hoax? When it becomes obvious it can't pay for itself next year. Or, you know, and that depends. You know what, though? I'm going to say something that there is a possibility that the whole 1 October problem might cause somebody to spend more money to finish that thing. But let's see. Okay, I'm not confident, but let's see what happens, how far that goes, because the question on the table is, well, gee, why that project and not something else? Because there are other casino projects. There's another arena project that's, you know, going up. Let's see. Let's see. Now, Patrick M. Blackman says, I wonder what will become of Reggie McKenzie next year. I think he'll stick around. Rick Gray says, I just saw an article from USA Today that states the Las Vegas Sands lease forbids gambling at the stadium unless you have a phone. Zenny, can I share that link with you? Is that wrong or forbidden? Send me the email, okay? Send me the email. And again, I want to follow that up so I can get a definitive, when I say definitive for me, not just the allowance of it, but the estimate of how much the money that could bring in. Because I'm not certain that the money from that is as large as people think in stadium. I want to run the numbers myself, see what they look like, all right? So, Joseph Binsman says, in my email, zenny@zenny62.com. Joseph Binsman says, the protests weren't about the NFL to begin with. They were about the problems in society that need to be fixed. These problems, like police brutality and racial inequality, and sexual inequality, I might add, need to be addressed. Octavio Harris says, Jerry Jones' statement should be tested by Zach and Zeke. James McClendon says, Zinster, when do you think, I answered that question. Raider Flea asks, Zinny, how much advertisement money do you think the Raiders can muster up in the Bay Area? Wow. All things considered, I think they could do in the Bay Area as well as Atlanta Falcons do here $1 billion. But the Raiders haven't tried to access the tech org companies in the way that they should. And if anybody connected with the team is watching this right now, the organization, okay, riddle me this. Why haven't you worked with the JPA to basically lay out a plan for the use of the Coliseum so that you can invite tech companies to have a booth over here, booth over there, you'll pay a per game fee that extends through the year, right? And show off their wares, their new, for example, Fitbit. I have never seen Fitbit at the Raiders Stadium. Why is it that Fitbit is at O'Hare Airport? They have kiosks at O'Hare Airport, but they don't have anything in the Coliseum, right? That's one example. I can go on. There are a number of companies, tech-oriented companies, that should have a presence as sponsors in the Raiders Stadium that don't, and could turn around the Raiders' revenue fortunes overnight. Okay, so I can go on. Fitbit is an example. Why not Apple? Can you imagine the Apple Coliseum? Why not a place where people can actually go on and watch sports events via Macintosh and a special type of Apple store? Okay, go to the Genius Bar, have their Mac looked at while they're at the game. There's all kinds of things that can be done that are not being done. All it takes is imagination and negotiation. Not done. So there's my answer to you. Now, Excel Generations says, Zinny, if you haven't been before, you should get a legal expert on who can shed light on the eminent domain with sports franchises. That'd be cool to listen to. Got it. Richard Hike says, hey, Richard, do you think Kaepernick hurt his credibility by offering to stand if he got a quarterback job in the league? No, I don't. But on the other hand, according to what he tweeted out, it sounded like that was a lie. So I don't see that Colin Kaepernick actually said that. And his tweet where he quoted Winston Churchill led me to believe that someone put out some fake news about him, and he hasn't changed his stance at all. Okay, so let's see here. Pedro Galante says, does Oakland have more time to make an appealing stadium? Yes. Did Mark Davis not like what Oakland drew up? He wants a mega stadium. Well, Mark never really put any effort into it and never gave Oakland a chance. So, and then Oakland itself, other than what I did, didn't draw up anything. They came up with a concept and a financing plan, but they didn't actually draw anything. I got a lot further than the city of Oakland did myself, you know, with the exception of the city council approval stage and that, all that, right? But no. The Raiders, if the Raiders focused on staying in Oakland, they'd have had a plan. They just need to focus on staying in Oakland, and maybe this is just the thing that they need to go through to do that. Now, Octavio says political stands should not be a reason for work-related punishment. They have to refocus the issue to racial profiling and police overstepping their boundaries. Quite agree. Ergas says official. And Octavio also says, we have to look at policemen getting killed in line of duty. Quite right. And Rick Gray says, Zinni at Zinni62.com, right? That's correct. And Octavio says, Apple cannot sponsor the game because Microsoft is NFL sponsor. Apple couldn't sponsor a game, but what about Apple having a sponsorship around the Coliseum itself? In other words, Microsoft, okay, well then, even then, if Microsoft is the NFL sponsor, why can't Apple sponsor the grounds around the stadium? Or maybe another area? You know, I mean, there's such a thing as what's called ambush marketing, right? You want to avoid that. And you could have something that's complementary. But here's the thing. And here's where Apple and Microsoft, I think, are different. Apple is, you know, you could have you have Apple devices that can take Microsoft products. Okay, fine. But what's to stop an Apple retailer bar? Or why not in there? Okay, and if Microsoft's an NFL sponsor, then why can't Microsoft be involved in it? Does it preclude Apple? I mean, I need to check that agreement myself to see what the fine print is, rather than assuming that because Microsoft is the NFL sponsor, that Apple can't be involved with a local stadium in some kind of way. Because remember, the reason why I say that is because Jerry Jones had engineered a deal with Pepsi, even though I think at the time Coca-Cola was the NFL sponsor. No, something like where they had a porridge, they had a conflict there. This goes far back to when Jerry first took over the Cowboys, and he engineered this $30 million rights deal with Pepsi that basically allowed him to, you know, pay for Deion Sanders' salary when he bought Deion over. So, and I need to recheck that. But as I recall, if memory serves, that was an ambush marketing problem, and then the NFL worked out. The Raiders could work out a similar deal from a tech perspective. They can fine-tune it a number of ways. It doesn't have to be, well, they have this, therefore you can't do that. And maybe Apple isn't in the stadium, but maybe it's around the grounds or outside or something, a place like that, right? That's my point, okay? So, Rick Gray says, remember that Material Ross says the Coliseum, screw them. Ha ha ha. I mean, I don't mean screw them. That was ridiculous. I like Phil and I like Andy. I've known them for years, but that was irresponsible. Richard Hike says, competing brands sponsor all the time. Thank you. And Big April says, good night all. He's done. All right, good night. And it's 1:35 here. And I'm going to bid you all adieu at 1:45. It's 1:36 now. Rick Gray says, I didn't understand the article from Material Ross. It didn't make any sense. The whole stadium in Oakland could be paid for by sponsors and building up the surrounding grounds for retail and housing. It was stupid, okay? It was a stupid article, a post that Material Ross wrote, and they went to P.J. Johnston, who's a long time spokesperson. He's been a spokesperson for a number of politicos in the Bay Area, and a good guy. From I haven't met him personally yet. We've communicated before. Great guy. I believe he worked for Willie Brown when Willie Brown was mayor of San Francisco. But in this case, he stepped out of his bounds when he said that. Basically, he implied that the Warriors couldn't expand or build next door at the Coliseum because it showed that he had no knowledge of Coliseum City, which is 100 acres, over 100-acre project. And it also shows he doesn't really have any knowledge regarding what's going to be Chase Center, because the Warriors are building Chase Center, but they're not building anything else around it. They can't. You know, they've got one building to the south that's already there, somebody else owns. They've got a building to the north. They only go out to the water. Then the other building that's on the other side of it is occupied by more UCSF-related facilities and a great restaurant called SF Kebab that I ate at, 2 Mondays ago. We all may have seen my Facebook post. This is my great friend Beth Schnitzer. So, it was just a particularly ridiculous thing to put out there. And why they did it, I don't concretely know, other than to discredit Oakland, which was awful. Okay, so there you go. Octavio, I have not forgot. Double shares. So Rick Gray says, who pays for the debt from the arena and the stadium if the teams leave? Still, the Coliseum JPA. According to the article, they will build 2 office buildings on site, so the stadium would be hidden from 3rd Street. Now, that's a different subject, all right? As far as the 2 office buildings are building on site, they're not big. They're little like slivers. Coliseum City is 100 acres. Chase Center is not 100 acres. So the Warriors could have come in and they could have bought Oracle Arena. That was certainly laid out there for them to do. And they could have said, all right, we'll buy Oracle Arena, and then we'll buy the property over here that is just the south parking lot, right? Thank you very much, Mr. Venegas, for the investment. That's the south parking lot. And they didn't do that. So again, PJ doesn't know what he's talking about, because his implication was that the Warriors couldn't do at Coliseum City what they're doing in Mission Bay. That's completely 1,000% wrong. I mean, just as wrong as my mom would say as the day is long. Excel Generation says, Zinni, what's the best thing the fans can do to help get an Oakland deal? Do this. 510-238-3141. Call the mayor's office. Tell them to get the Raiders back to Oakland from Vegas. They tell you that the Raiders are gone. Tell them they're not gone. Tell them that Zinni told you to call, and that Zinni says that you can exercise the right leadership to work out situation to bring the Raiders back. Tell them that. Tell them that right there. Just ask for the mayor. Say you want to talk to Libby. Tell them Zinni sent you. That's what you do. All right? Saying it right here. There's your number. You can call 510-238-3266 there and ask for Larry Reed. Larry Reed, okay? And do the same thing, all right? Same thing, all right? Yeah, give him a call and tell him I told you to do it. Tell him you're a Zinster. Tell him I put you up to it. Definitely. All right. And you're from Hayward? No, Hayward. No, it doesn't matter at all. You're Hayward. You're a Raider fan. It's the city's jurisdiction. You're making the logical call. Hey, by the way, is that you live in Hayward, right? Is that cool lounge on B Street still there? Because there was this lounge and bookstore. I haven't been down there in a long time. Is that still around? I'm just asking. Rick Gray's, you're Hayward too? I want to have a party down. You know what? I got a party for everybody. Boy, I'm going to have okay, that settles it. I'm going to have a get-together. It's going to be in Oakland, just to centralize everybody. But, it'd be nice to get everybody together and meet everybody in person. That'd be a lot of fun. I'm actually working on something like that right now. So, if you guys don't mind coming up around Lake Merritt, I've got a venue picked out. So, Corey Brown says, in Phoenix for a lot of Raider fans in Phoenix. Wow. Oh, the bookstore moved to the opposite side. Wow, okay. And Octavia says, Zinni says to call. Clock. Beep, beep, beep. Yeah, actually, tell him. Said Zinni said to call. Do it. I'll take the heat. Do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll take that one. Octavia's like laugh out loud. Ha ha ha. I will take that one. All right, folks. I need to get some rest. Please call tomorrow. And Big Track says, anyone going to the A's rally at La Estrada tomorrow evening? Oh, it's tomorrow? Hey, if anyone is going tomorrow evening, Richard, you have a YouTube channel. Would you please make a live stream video for us? Would you do that? Could you go live for us there? Or just post it on YouTube? Because you have permission on my channel to do that. Would you please do that? Because then we have a Zenster in the house. Just hold the camera sideways like this, not like that. Could you do that? Rich says, tell me what you want. Live stream like that. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. Hey, Zinni. Rita Fleet says, hey, Zinni, what high-tech billionaire do you think can buy out Mark Davis and build the stadium on his own? Any one of them. And Richard Hike says, can do, exclamation point, I believe. Yeah. He hit the one, but I think he meant to hit the exclamation point. Woohoo! So, folks, Richard Hike is going to be on live stream from the Raider event tomorrow. The A's event tomorrow, La Estrada, okay? What time is that event going to be? So I can tune in. That'll be fun, man. That'll be a lot of fun. What time is that going to be? Do you know? Wow. I love that neighborhood in Oakland. That is something else. Wow. And Octavia corrects me. It's Estrelita. Estrelita. All right. Richard Hike said, that's my plan. It's at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific, which is 8. So you'll be starting at the time Godfather Grizz and I get going. That's fine. Because I can have Godfather Grizz and then we can, tune it over to you and say, hey, this is what Richard's doing. And hey, Godfather, what do you think about that? And everything else. That's perfect. All right. So you'll be about 30 minutes before we get on. Rick Gray says the restaurant and then the board meeting. Octavia says Ita. Lastrita. Ita. Ita. Lastrita. Which is at the, if you're wondering where that is, folks, it's 12th and 5th Avenue in Oakland. 12th and 5th. Starts at 5 o'clock. Okay, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific, which is 8 o'clock. Yeah, 8 o'clock. 5 o'clock p.m., which is 8 o'clock out here. Got it. And, yeah, 5 o'clock is 8 o'clock. And, yeah, because we don't start until later. We start at 8:30. So it'll be a gap. So you'll be starting at 5 o'clock. I'll check that out, which would be 8 o'clock. Godfather Grizz and I won't start until 11:30. So that's a gap, okay? And Rick Gray says, Larry Ellison, and there's no parking. I was thinking of others other than Larry. I mean, there's Mark Zuckerberg. There's a lot of people. Raider Fleet says, that means little stars, isn't he? Rick Gray says, you the man. No, you the man. Rick Gray says, good night. Good night, everybody. It is 1:49. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow. See you all tomorrow. Get some rest. And thank you for another rousing evening. I'll see you guys. And I'm exhausted. And yes, Supergirl was a fantastic episode. And I'm going to do a live stream about TV and science fiction. But hey, don't forget Wednesday, too, is Female Athletes Day, Zinni 62. All right, I'll see you guys.